here with the great Hank Jones. I can't stand it. All this greatness.
Oh, you'll get used to it. It gets worse as time goes on. You know. Because it gets progressively worse. The longer I play.
Not for you, my friend. It's amazing that you just celebrated your 90th birthday. Happy birthday!
Well, thank you very much.
We had an opportunity to celebrate it in Los Angeles at the Hollywood Bowl.
That's true, at the Hollywood Bowl.
Ago.
That's right. You know something? I don't feel a day over 89.
Well, you know, and you don't look it either.
I want to thank you very much for this.
Exuberance is what we feel when you play any note on that piano.
I want to thank you kindly. It's always a pleasure. And I'm playing with you, Christian, is a great pleasure. We haven't had that pleasure often enough.
Yes.
For my taste, but it's always a great pleasure to do it. I want you to know that.
Thank you, sir.
Very, very good.
One of the biggest thrills I ever had meeting you not too long after I moved to New York was playing a string of gigs with you at Tavern on the Green.
Oh, yes, that's right.
I remember that very well. And I remember George Shearing came and sat in one night. And I remember he played My Funny Valentine in like A or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, he really raised eyebrows.
Yes.
And,
well, you know, he was a great. I like George's playing. You know,
yeah.
I've always enjoyed him. He was doing an interview once, and interviewer asked him if he had been blind all his life. George said, "Not yet."
Right. Very clever man. Speaking of trios, we actually had an opportunity. I guess this must have been about 2 years now since we did that date with Jimmy Cobb.
You're right. It doesn't seem that long.
Yeah, time flies.
Oh.
I remember that date very well because my car got towed.
Okay.
During that session.
Somebody else's car got towed. I think George Morash told me about it.
That's right.
He parked in front of the Blue Note.
Right.
Maybe I shouldn't mention that. But, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Blue Note. It was Birdland.
Oh, I
His
believe
car
it.
got towed, and
I
somebody
believe it.
else's car. Yeah.
Yeah, New York can't mess around. They will get you. Hank, everyone knows that you come from a royal family of great jazz musicians.
Well,
And
I had some very illustrious brothers, you know, Elvin
Yes.
and Thad.
yes.
So
Absolutely.
I guess
Tell me
by
what
osmosis, I guess that makes me.
right.
But
What
anyway.
was a day in the Jones household like when you guys were kids?
Chaos. Well, actually, you know, we always had music in the house. You know, my father always had. My father played a little guitar, you know.
Is that right?
And my mother played piano, but not professionally. You know, just for her own amusement. And we always had what in those days was called a Victrola.
Sure.
Nowadays it's called a record player. Yeah. But,
or a CD player,
CD,
or an
exactly,
iPod.
Exactly.
Right,
So
right.
we heard a lot of music, you know, around the house, and I think that had a lot to do with inspiring us to play, you know.
Sure.
And my mother encouraged us to practice and so forth, which I hated at the time.
Of course.
But now I wish I had practiced longer. You know?
Wow.
But anyway, there was always a lot of music around the house. Never. And my mother always had hundreds, actually, literally hundreds of records, recordings of all types of singers, blues singers, jazz singers, bands, blues
Right.
players, you know, pianists, so forth. So we heard a great variety of music.
Is that why I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think one of the reasons that we all admire you for so long is because your style has been able to fit so many different types of things. I mean, I've heard you play behind singers. I've heard you play in big bands. I heard you play things like with cutting edge modern groups, solo piano. I mean, no matter what setting you play in, it always works.
Well, I hope it works. In that respect, I think my experience working at CBS helped an awful lot, because there
Yes.
you played a great variety of kinds of music.
Right.
You played with behind singers. You played for dog acts, elephant acts, and all sorts of, and comedians and so forth. You know.
Right.
So it was an interesting period. I also, at that time, during that period, 17 years, I also did 2 radio shows
Is that right?
during the same period. One was a jazz show, and the other was, believe it or not, Dixieland.
Oh, wow. I do believe it.
And I enjoyed it.
One of the first recordings I ever heard you on was the 2 piano record you did with Tommy Flanagan.
Oh, yes.
I believe it was called Our Delights.
Our Delights, yes.
Yeah.
And on the cover there was a picture of bonbons. You know,
Right.
You know?
And such grace. I mean, you hear a lot of different piano players from any era, and you have a touch. That's another thing about your playing that's been celebrated through the years. Your touch on the piano. You never play it too light. You never play it too hard. You just seems to always have a perfect lay on the piano. What do you attribute to that? Like, you know, years of study, or just something that you know comes naturally? You know where the sweet spot on the piano is?
Perhaps just a general weakness, actually. I practice a lot. You know, every pianist who aspires to do anything, you have to practice. You know, you practice scales, exercises, and all that. You know, play acute tunes and so forth. I mean, it's important. So I think when you put it all together, you develop a feel for the piano, and you develop a style, I suppose. You know,
sure.
That means in my particular style, I don't like to play heavy.
Sure. With
a lot of force. I like to play with enough force to, you know, properly accent the music where it needs to be accented, but not heavy.
Yes.
And I really prefer playing ballads, you know.
So, what's coming up for you next?
Well, you see, I'd like to continue to do what I'm doing. I'm doing now a series of concerts with the trio.
Who's playing in your trio?
Well, now currently Carl Allen is playing drums, and also George Morris. At least on the first couple of concerts, but after that, it changes. When we get to Dizzy's Club, I think the personnel will change.
Okay.
But right now, it's George. George has to leave. He's a very busy man, you know.
Of course.
He's like you are. It's hard to pin him down. It's like hard to pin you down.
Oh my goodness. Well, I tell you what though, anytime I get an opportunity to play with you, I'm just always all smiles, and I'm always very, very excited.
I can say the same thing about playing with you. And I've tried to get you a number of times, you know, but the times that I've tried to reach you, it has been sort of a wall thrown up around. You say he's available only on payment of several $1 million in advance.
I'm not free, but I'm reasonable.
Very good. I like that.
Hank, it's always a pleasure to see you and work with you. I look forward to the next time, and until then, all the best to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Thank you very much.